Welcome to the GTP. My name is Scott and we're counting down to the top 10 brand new physical manga releases of 2024. In this video, that's right, we're going from number 10 all the way to number 1, my absolute favorite new release. And I gotta say, it is a phenomenal year to be a manga fan, as we had literally over hundreds of brand new physical volume 1 releases and so on for this past year. And I was surprised as I was looking back at some of this manga just to think of what came from last January all the way till now. So in this video, before we get started, I'd love to know in the comments below what were some of your absolute favorite releases that come out this past year. And I hope in this video there'll be just a few surprises or things that you did not expect to be in my top 10. Or you know what? Maybe you did. Let's go ahead and get started counting down with number 10. Coming in at number 10 is Hilasumi from Viz Media. This is a wonderful, cozy slice of life series as we're following the main character. He's about to turn 30 years old and he's just very easy go, laid back, and he ends up befriending this elderly woman, and her dying wish as she passes away, she decides to give her home over to our protagonist. So he's now living in this old home, and now his cousin, who's 18, who's going off to college, goes and joins him and decides to live with him as well. He is very carefree, his cousin is high stress, and you're following their antics as they're living together. And it's just a beautiful, slow series, and just wholesome. Times I just can't help but smile. I've just thoroughly enjoyed the first couple volumes. I think the volume 1 alone, you'll immediately just be taken away just by the wholesomeness and just the just a good feel-good story. No major drama, but it's just fun seeing their antics together, and just seeing just the laid backness of just seeing through life, and then just the perspectives, going through some flashbacks as our main character just remembers some just timeless wisdom that he got from this elderly woman. So phenomenal series, you gotta check it out. Coming in at number 9 is Initial D by Kodansha, and wow, I was actually surprised this ever was going to be reprinted to begin with. So this has been in digital jail and originally came out in singles from Tokyo Pop, and then it never was completed when Tokyo Pop went under. So because of that, I was actually not surprising that we would ever get a physical release of this, which gives me hope that many other, hopefully older titles will be reprinted like Initial D. They did a phenomenal job with this 2-in-1, which is great because I think there's like 46 volumes with Initial D, and this is definitely not for kids. It's probably 16 plus, not extremely graphic or crude, but read the first volume for yourself, as it has more just that high school antics and humor in it. And you're following this main character who ends up becoming just a racer. He ends up realizing that he's really into street racing. At first, he's just very carefree. He doesn't realize that he's any good at racing. He just runs different takeout errands for his dad, and then he gets challenged on this mountain, and he starts getting that bug inside. I appreciate it's definitely the main character isn't egotistic. He's very carefree, and it's fun just watching him on his journey as he discovers his love for racing, as it slowly just continues to seep in, and he starts challenging, other people start challenging him. So I'm really enjoying Initial D. This is my first time ever reading it. I never read it before. It's been a ride, a wild ride, if I do say indeed. Coming in at number 8 is another Viz Media title, and this is a shoujo series, Last Quarter, and it's actually there's gonna be 2 parts total, with the last one coming out this January. So this is a perfect time to dive into this with volume 1, but this is from the same author that gave us Paradise Kiss. Wow, I was just really sucked into this series. Even though we only have 2 volumes total for this, it is a very, very good, you're following this girl who she falls in love with this boy, and then as she's waiting for him, all of a sudden he just disappears, and she wakes up and she's in this mansion, and for some reason she can't leave the mansion itself. And then there's these children that come along and they discover her, and they're trying to help her figure out how she can get into the mansion. You're not sure if she's a ghost, if she's still there and she's in a different reality. Some people can see her, some people can't. And they're trying to help her along the way to find out what happened to that person that she was in love with. They're trying to help her regain her memories as she's stuck in this mansion and she just can't fully remember things, but she can remember her love. So it's a really good mystery series. I'm surprised maybe it is a movie in Japan, but I think this could be a really good movie or a mini series. I think this would do very well. So thoroughly enjoyed the first volume. I was absolutely hooked. I'm looking forward to seeing how this go ahead and concludes this coming January. It's one you need to have on your radar. You're definitely missing out not reading the last quarter. Coming in at number 7 is Full Night by Viz Media. Now this follows just a boy who's just financially strapped and struggling. He's trying to take care of a mental illness, a mom, and in the world there's no longer sunlight. So because of that, plants can't live because they need the sun. So they discovered a way that if they put a seed inside a human, that plant can live on in the night. It just slowly, unfortunately, eats away at your body, and then you just no longer exist. And there's this idea, like, is your soul merging with the plant? Is the plant merging with you? And along this way, the main character decides that, you know, he can get more money and live a better life. His life is just so terrible. Go ahead and put the plant in me. I'm willing to sacrifice myself for society. I'll get a nice pay, and then I'll have 2 good years, and then it's all over. So this series really makes you think about, you know, what's your point of living. He ends up being a detective where somehow he is able to communicate with the plants. Really, really good plot. I thoroughly enjoyed the first couple volumes that have been out, and I'm just completely sucked in wanting to find out more. So at first I thought it was going to be kind of more of a slice of life. Now it's becoming more of a mystery series, and it's just talking about just the idea of really enjoying living, really enjoying what you have in the moment, as well as now you're wondering, is he going to regret what he's done? Is there a way to reverse it? I don't know, but man, they've done such a good job with this. Very powerful. It's rated for older teens. I would say about 14, 15 plus. It's not as bad as I'd say Initial D. That's one, again, read the first volume. It's also on the Viz Media app if you want to check it out that way, but really good. Highly recommend Full Night. Coming in at number 6 is The Perks of Being an S-Class Heroine by Eyes Press. And this is a phenomenal new manhwa that came out. It gives me a scratching the itch of omniscient reader. So if you like omniscient reader's viewer point, I think you're going to like this series as well. It is a lot more wholesome, not as graphic with people blood and guts and dying, but it does scratch a little bit of that same itch as this girl ends up getting this life insurance to use in another world before she dies, and then she ends up waking up into a book that she read in the past. It also reminds me a little bit of Rylena, why'd she end up at the Duke's dungeon? Because there's this idea that she's stuck in this book, and now she's making changes in the book, which is changing the story that she knew. So with that, she's ended up realizing that the story is changing. Are things going to affect her? And there's this main character that's on this time loop, same like omniscient reader's viewer point. Very, very good. The system comes in, she can get different perks. And I appreciate she's not egotistic. There is a bit of that greed in there, and it's more in just in a funny way. So if you're looking for something where it's wholesome, cute, funny, but you're also scratches that itch, really, really good. I'm phenomenal reading this. I think the 3rd one just came out. I read. Really good, thoroughly enjoying the series. I believe you're going to like it as well. Highly recommend checking out. Coming in at number 5 is Tokyo These Days by Viz Media, and I gotta appreciate they gave us these lovely hardcover. There is 3 volumes total, and I had to double check. The first one did come out in January, and we have the whole series. Now it's complete. This series is a different take on life, and it gives you the perspective of someone who just loves manga, and he's a manga editor, and the magazine he's working on, they're just going to no longer use some of the creators he was, so he decides to go ahead and quit just dealing with manga altogether, and then eventually he ends up coming to a realization that he wants to create his own manga magazine. So he ends up, you following him on his journey as he's going these different creators, people that were rejected by society, but he just thought was so phenomenal. And it's this idea that his magazine always had really good reviews, but the audience wasn't there. So it makes you think you're dealing with some of these creators where you might be making a story or series, and it's not something that you like or even want to do, you're passionate about, but you know it'll earn you an income. You know there's people who want to read it, so you make it anyway for the fans, for people, even though it's not something for you. Really, really good takes, really makes you think. It's a lot more of a slowdown. So if you're looking for, I'd say, a deep cut, I think this is something to be impressed in someone's manga collection. They're like, oh, you have Tokyo These Days? It's something that I don't see enough people collecting or picking up, but really, really good 3 volumes. I thoroughly enjoyed my time with this series. Coming in at number 4 is See You in My 19th Life by Eyes Press, and this was another phenomenal manga series. Came out early this year. I think we're on volume 4, surprisingly, and I really appreciate they're a lot thicker, the volumes. I think there's 10 in this, going to be in the series altogether. This is about a girl who, on her 18th life, she ends up meeting a boy. She just has such a connection with him, and then towards the end, she ends up dying tragically, saving this boy's life, and she reawakened to her 19th life. And what's different with her compared to other people is that she can remember all her past lives. So she is woken up again, I think around the age 5 or 6, I think 6 years old, and then she remembers everything that happened before, and now she's just, because it's been such a shorter time from when she died previously, she's trying to get back to that boy and trying to hope somehow get him to remember who she is. And you're seeing what were the effects of her last life and dying, what that happened to her family, what happened to her sister, just the grief of losing somebody they love dearly, and then this new person along the lines they feel so close connection to, but at the same time they don't want to get hurt because they have these inklings of that it's like my sister, but of course it's not my sister, my sister died. So really good, just romantic, dramedy series, has some comedy sprinkled in. I'm really enjoying the journey along the way. Seeing what happens after such a losing someone, it's kind of like the idea that you can now come back and see how people moved on, and then there's this idea of what would it look like if I now re-enter their life. Can they accept me that I'm different, but it was me? Or, you know, is that going to be hard? So really, really good. I've thoroughly enjoyed this series so far. All right, thank you if you made it this far. We're now counting down to the top 3 series that came out, brand new physical releases. And the first one was one I didn't know much about at all, but wow, my number 3 from Kodansha is The Fable. Now, this series is definitely not for kids whatsoever. I do appreciate Kodansha even gives content warnings on some of the covers, but very, very good as you're following this assassin who he has to take a sabbatical, a year off. And doing a year off, he's just trying to live, just lay low in this mundane town, and just things keep popping up every now and then, and he's having to kind of use his abilities again, even though he could care less. And things that are just like really easy for him are just mind on bonkers that someone could even do that to begin with. So he's like this prodigy, the best in the world, but he's supposed to lay low, and things keep happening, popping up where he can't. So very, very funny. It has a dark sense of humor to it. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. I was surprised just how much I enjoyed this series, and I've been taken away. I don't want to spoil too much, so if you like that kind of humor, I think you're gonna love this series. It's not necessarily action-packed. You're just more seeing him having to deal with these antics and just his thought process, the friends along the way that he's with, the girl that's kind of his sidekick. She's phenomenal and hilarious. And again, there's just many times I was just laughing out loud in this series. So I'm thoroughly enjoying The Fable. I'm looking forward to it. I believe it's going to end this coming year. I think we're on number 4 of them right now. So Kodansha, I really appreciate how fast they're turning these out for these 2-in-1. So highly recommend checking out. But again, I gotta say, it's definitely not for kids whatsoever. All right, coming in at number 2. If you've been following my channel for a while, this should not be a surprise to you at all. This series is from the same author that gave us Cast-to-Me, which is from Kodansha and Digital Jail. I'm hoping, Kodansha, if you're watching this video, that'd be willing to give that a physical release, because I think people love it a lot. But Viz Media gave us The Steel of the Celestial Shadows. And this is you're following a samurai warrior who's just down on his luck because he cannot hold metal. Anytime he tries to touch metal, it just reflects back and just goes the opposite direction. And then in this story, he ends up finding this girl who ends up just taking pity and just loves him and just cares about him for who he is. And then tragedy has to strike, where then all of a sudden his new wife is kidnapped, she's taken away, and now he is on a journey trying to get her back. It takes place in just an old historical Japan. I really appreciate there's this sense of kind of like, I'll say old superhero comics, kind of like the X-Men, where people have different powers. Someone might have the power where they can control water. Some people can go ahead and it feels like they can teleport. Some people can see the future, and you're just seeing him go going along the way here as he's trying to survive and find and get her back. So I'm really enjoying this series so far. I don't want to give any spoilers of things. You can check this out on the Viz Media app. They've been following along. As soon as a new volume is released physically, usually a couple weeks later, they'll go ahead and put it on digitally if you want to go that way. But wow, this has been so phenomenal. I've really enjoyed this so far. All right, now we're coming on to number 1, and I gotta say, this is by far one of my favorite series in a long time. It's wholesome. I've cried many times while reading this series, and immediately just grabbed my heart. And to the point where I want to do a video just saying why you should check out this series, even though there's only 5 volumes out right now. And that is The Medalist by Kodansha. Wow, who would have thought I'd be so sucked into a skating series? I knew nothing about ice skating. I've never really watched ice skating except for the Olympics here and there. Wow, the idea of chasing your dreams, this girl being told that you're too old to chase this dream, you're not good enough, why even try? There's people who've been doing this 5 years before you. There's no way you can catch up to them. Parents saying, why should we spend money in the sport? It's very expensive. This hobby of yours, can you even really get good? And you're seeing her against all odds at wanting to achieve this dream and having someone to believe in her. And I think there's just something so powerful, just that someone would see something in you that you may not see in yourself, that willing to come along the way, encourage you and care about you and help you chase your dream. It is a feel-good story. It is rated teen, 13 and plus. I would say that's probably about fair. I think 12 and older can read this no problem. But man, it's a beautiful story, a beautiful series. I cannot gush about enough. This will be in my top 20 when we go through my top 30 of new manga of all time. Maybe even eking into that top 10. I'm just thoroughly enjoying my time with this series. The anime is going to be coming out. I hope that just helps more people get exposure to the series, because this definitely deserves to be on your spot. It's definitely one that you need to read. If you're looking for encouragement, if you're looking to be inspired, maybe tug on those heartstrings, this is the series for you. All right, that is my top 10 brand new physical manga releases for 2024. I'd love to know again in the comments below, what do you believe deserves to be on this list? There are so many good series I thought of. I was hesitant, that almost made that list. Depending on this video, I can even give you my number 20 through 11, but it was really hard. Again, there's over hundreds of titles that came out to be able to whittle it down to just these 10. And this is just that mindset for these ones that I've read. And it does help that some of these series have a couple volumes out, which gives you to breathe more life into the series. There's some other series I've read that were absolutely phenomenal, but with only 1 volume, I kind of want to be a little hesitant as I don't know how the series continues. So thank you so much for watching. It has been a phenomenal year. I'm looking forward to being alongside of you as we go ahead and ring into 2025. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.